Good evening. Sport as a means of development of youth and communities. This is Plain Talk. When we come back, I'll introduce you to some people who need very little introduction in the world of sport. When we come back. Right, so we're back. To my right, he's a pilot. He's the head of the Southern Warriors Mixed Martial Arts. He is well-known instructor and social media activist now, Kerry Grant.
Hi, good day, good night.
Yeah? He is a former English footballer, Premier League starter, FA Cup. He is a well-known and renowned football coach, Terry Fennick.
Thank you, Phil.
Right, this guy, he is the chief instructor of Shotokan Karate of TNT. The rest of his resume we will get into. Brian Chinleung.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Deputy political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Tony Defoe.
Evening, Trinidad and Tobago.
Right, so, gentlemen, now I tried to get some sport women also to join the panel. It was short notice, and so part 2 and part 3 we will get others on board and get into the issues that affect our female athletes. But to start the conversation, sport as a means to development of young people.
Can I say that?
Jump right in.
Okay, remember we were speaking off here, and I was telling you, Philip, that sport is such an important part of society, and especially in relation to what you just said, young people. What is important in any sporting discipline is that the quality of the instructor must always be above par, and as such, simple things like regardless of the sporting discipline, especially I'm in martial arts, that they have some basic requirements like police certificate of good character.
Yeah.
I don't think if you had a son, you would like to know that the guy is teaching him was charged for child molestation.
No, you want the instructor or the coach to be above reproach.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you want
Absolutely.
standards set for that.
Well.
Do we have standards?
Well, I'm coming to that now. Let's look at first the effect as far as kids go. That instructor, in terms of in a perfect world, a son would have his father as the role model, but we don't live in a perfect world. So sometimes that's not the case. An instructor in any sporting discipline is looked up to by most of his students, and they emulate the instructor as much as possible, right? I was telling Philip of a case in karate many years ago in the USA. There was an instructor. He was my former instructor. He had put a student to teach some 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds karate, and these are 6 and 7-year-olds, right? And the young instructor who was teaching was competing. So one day he came with his hand bandaged because he got a shot blocking on his hand, and he taught the class. The next day, all of these 6-year and 7-year-olds showed up with a white bandage on it because they idolized him. They looked up to him. And from that point of view, sport and the responsibility of the person who is teaching
Developing minds,
is
young minds.
extremely important. It has nothing to do
The
with the actual
impact, yeah.
technique delivery, you know.
No, but
Whether it's
the
football or jiu-jitsu or whatever, there are certain traits that are common that the child, you raise, that coach or the instructor raises the child's self-esteem,
Absolutely.
his confidence,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
his, even at that age, teaches them about integrity.
But all three of you coach. All three of you coach, and you all coach young people. All three of you, Terry, and football.
Well, it's all, for me, it's all about standards. You've hit the nail on the head there. These kids, when they come to your clinic, your class, they've got to see a role model, somebody that's delivering quality above them, and somebody they can rely upon getting honesty and integrity and good coaching to make them better. And I think that, unfortunately, what I've seen quite regular here is when one coach gets in, then his best partner and best friend and this one and that one, and he surrounds himself with people not of the same standard. So then across the board you have a knock-on effect that you're now not delivering quality.
Lowering the standard.
Yes. So you're now not delivering a top quality standard to these kids. These kids go away and they talk. They communicate with each other and they know whether you're good or bad.
Now you're talking community level or national level here.
Right across the board.
Who is responsible for setting that bar?
Top people at the top.
At the top.
At the top.
So there should be a vision for sport, for the development of young people, for development of the national sporting
Yes.
agenda. Somebody should be
So,
in charge of that agenda.
Philip, what I would say to you, what I've seen on a regular basis in Trinidad and Tobago, and many other places for that, there's no plan set down. People get into positions, president, vice president, and there's no plan of action from day one till the end of their term, 4 or 5 years. And then it's all gone by in a flash. What happened there? And the kids on the ground are the ones that feel it worst because there isn't a plan,
and
there isn't a way forward.
And you squander their opportunity.
Correct.
Because you have a young...
With ambition.
Right, but
Kids
you have
with ambition.
You have a window of time for athletes. I mean, I know there are some footballers ended the game like Didier Drogba who came in there kind of late. But generally, you want to sign them up at like Lionel Messi,
Yeah.
10, 11, 12.
Yes.
In Trinidad and Tobago, let's just talk football as you're talking that. Would you say, because we produce world-class footballers,
Fantastic players. Great talent on the ground.
Are we investing enough effort, time, energy, professionalism into the development of our footballers?
Not enough for me. That there's very little expertise in positions of coaching and management, so they're not delivering the right messages to these kids, not in my eyes. And that's, we've got some wonderful talent on the islands. And when you look back at Dwight York's,
Shaka Hislop,
all of
Russell
these top
Dutton,
players,
yeah.
there's still kids of that quality out there, I'm telling you, but they get overlooked because the coaches don't know what they're looking for. They're not digging deep enough into communities to find these gems, and they go amiss.
Kerry, mixed martial arts. Same problems apply?
Same problems apply. The issues that we would see in the mixed martial arts right now, remember mixed martial arts is new to the Caribbean, it's new to Trinidad and Tobago. Mixed martial arts really kind of stormed onto the scene, I would say, in probably 2005, 2006, with CUF actually having the full set of shows, events back then. But I personally started my training in MMA when I was 18 years old. This was when I was based in the US, right? However, returning to Trinidad and starting my own club at a tender young age in 2004. I really wasn't ready for coaching. I was still an athlete. I was more than just competing in MMA. I was also involved in track as well and other different disciplines of sport. But there were a few guys, that saw me competed at judo tournaments, ones that I competed in here. And they saw some videos of my competitions abroad, and they just kept coming, teach us. But at that time I was very young. I was only 24 years old. And they probably saw something. Now, I always knew at some point in time I would like to coach. I wasn't ready for it in my mind, but the way they came at me, 2 of them ended up at my doorstep. I'll never forget it. And strange enough, I saw one of the guys last night, and he was actually my first student. And that awoken something in me, and it flourished from there.
But your
And
club producing champions.
we have champions. We actually have the most number of champions on the island right now. We have guys with championships held in different weight classes.
But mixed martial arts, you think, is a good avenue to channel?
Very good avenue. About 3 years ago, I actually went to the ministry and I told them, listen, the area in which my club is based, we had a lot of problems with the schooling environment in that particular community. And I said, this is what we are willing to do. And I'm not looking for money or anything. Let us design a program an after school program. The kids that get detention or the kids that are suspended, instead of just sending them home to the same environment that have created
The problem in the
the
first
problem
place.
in the first place,
Yeah.
send them to us. We are
Sweat it
willing.
out.
That's exactly. I'm not asking for any money. This was me genuinely trying to assist and help my community. Coming out of the areas that where I have been and the people I grew up with in my early teens and early adolescence. Today I stand amongst these guys and sometimes I feel sad, because where I am in life, they're not there. And people would say, well, Kerry, you probably had a different start in life. And I always would listen to my mother when she said we were all born with a brain. Unless you were born with some sort of defect, we have a
Equal
brain,
opportunity,
we have
yes.
equal opportunity.
And I want to bring Tony Defoe into this because on numerous occasions he's brought up the subject. He spends a lot of time on the ground in the communities, and people complain about lack of facilities, lack of opportunities.
Yeah.
Hearing this, I mean, as an impetus to development, to create a vision for sport that drills down to the ground level, what Kerry's talking about here, making it an opportunity for those who might be troubled children.
That's real. That's absolutely real, and that's the census across the board with people such as Kerry and his peers. It's about the system in itself not being able to provide and set a proper agenda for the sporting industry. I mean, the sporting industry in Trinidad is a wide scope, from swimming to football to motorsports to cricket, lawn tennis. There's a host of sporting that we directly can be involved in, and again, it's about developing the minds of the youth outside of the academic.
But we
field.
mash up the tennis courts and put down Napa.
Which
You
is very
remember
true.
that was the public
Yeah.
tennis courts, remember?
And it's so ironic. I actually in school was training with lawn tennis, and that's exactly what had happened, because the facility that we were training at, it went a rot.
We
basically.
make FET venues. We
Yeah,
don't make
yeah,
sport
yeah,
venues.
And I would totally agree. In my area, where I grew up as well, we had about 3 or 4 basketball courts. We also had 2 big rugby fields, and there was also the horse racing track in Gopalands. I don't know if you
Yes,
remember
yes.
that. They had the big rugby fields, if anybody ever visited South those days. And today they are houses, on it. And this is something that we have been seeing happening. They are building communities, but they are not providing sporting
They're not building communities.
facilities.
Those are not communities.
Well,
A
well,
community,
but-
no, I'm saying to you,
Uh-huh.
to follow on your point, a community recognizes the needs of the people and
Correct.
provides for the
I
needs of
agree
the
with you
people.
with that.
I look at Cocorite. I spend a lot of time in that area. About 50,000 people live in Cocorite. If you drive into Cocorite, the amount of anguish that you feel, the squalor, comes from the fact that these young people have nothing.
That's true.
They're in a concrete bowl and they're enclosed and it's coming in at them from all sides. They used to run across the road and down the track into the sea. They would get involved in fishing and stuff. Now that's closed off to them. What do we expect these young people brimming over with hormones?
Yeah.
All of us remember when we became teenagers. I mean, yeah.
But Philip, on that point, I'd like to direct this to Terry. Based on what you just said about they have nothing, and I guess because football is so popular in Trinidad, how many people you would say that young people come to you and you know that they're seeing football as they're getting them out of poverty,
Yeah.
and their only means, because
Escape.
they look at their academic education and say, boy, well, I'm no Einstein, as the case may be,
Correct.
and they're looking towards some sport that they know that they figure they have a talent, whether it's MMA, soccer, karate, and they figure, well, I could be great in this thing, and I believe in myself, but I just need the correct coach to help me on it. I need some direction.
Well, I just think when you look at football now on the planet, it's the biggest sport.
Absolutely.
The monies that are generated are huge. So it's not some social pastime as it used to be many years ago.
Invest in it.
It's now a chance for kids, as you quite rightly said there. Lots of these kids are not academic. But most of the best footballers in the country will come from the backgrounds and communities that are tough and hard to get by. So you've got, and I want to bring this to your attention, a couple of things here. Many of these kids have got very young parents. And then parents are being brought up and maybe in gang life and whatever. Their knock-on effect to their kids is, do they go the same route, or do they find a sport where they can get out of trouble where they are?
But who's going to teach those young parents who don't know better?
So my second point was going to be, look where we are in Trinidad and Tobago, where we've got 4 top quality stadiums nationwide, and they're all in the middle of nowhere, underutilised, don't use anywhere. They're a waste of time, and they're costing government money every year for maintenance. And the maintenance has not been done, so they're dropping down around us. Can't we make some use of that?
But I said, when you looked at AC Milan and Inter Milan share a stadium,
Share a stadium.
they share a stadium.
Yeah.
I would have loved, my son is 26 now, but growing up, I mean, they hustle and play football in the shadow of the National Stadium inside the youth center. If you go there on an evening and see the kind of football being played inside of there on the ground, on hard floor, in sneakers, because they can't get access to the grounds, to the stadium. If we have, as you say, and I've always wondered, why on a Saturday and a Sunday they don't have 2 games, 3 games? Diego Martin playing Maraval and Curep playing Sawa.
But Philip, not just sport, open these big stadiums up, these big properties that have got car parking facilities. Trinidad and Tobago at the moment, everybody's got a pop-up shop. They're travelling around the country showing their wares, trying to sell things. Why not turn these stadiums into little hubs around the country where they can use for not just sport, everything? Manchester United, Old Trafford, 5 days a week, loans itself out to a college. So they're using all the private boxes and
But
everything
absolutely.
around. It's
But
making the
absolutely.
best.
Terry, I remember once we used, a bunch of us used to train a lot. And one of our training, we used to run to the stadium and go inside the stadium and run up and down the stairs, inside the stadium, around the stadium. And we were put out.
Yeah.
We were put out, and they told us we have to get permission from the Ministry of Sport to run up and down on the stands. What are we going to do to the concrete stands running up and down the stands? And it was getting big. People were getting involved in it because the world we were watching, all the new types of the development in sport now is all outdoor, flipping tires, carrying lampposts. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, but that's the truth. And we just always so late to take advantage. The mixed martial arts, I know your son is involved in
Adam.
that. Have we yet built a purpose-built facility? We have so many athletes involved in it. Do we have a facility anywhere?
I actually approached again the ministry in Marabella at Stadium Maniramjan Stadium. There's a lot of open land there. I said, listen, build a facility. It's not going to cost you much. It's basically a warehouse. It's just
A roof.
A roof. A roof. That's basically it.
That's it.
Right? I have a lot of equipment, and I could donate it today. We're already based in Marabella. I said, come on, let's get this thing done. Mixed martials.
That
I
would
showed
be
them out.
packed every night.
Man, because there's also a boxing gym in Marabella, Cosmos Boxing Gym, right? And they had a nice bunch of youth. But the gym now is
Dilapidated,
that's
run
correct.
down.
It needs uplifting, and it cannot really house the
know,
athletes.
You know, it's a shame.
I told them, let's build this. It will be a multi-purpose
Absolutely.
combat sporting
Absolutely.
facility. So it's more than just MMA. We have boxing, we will have judo, we'll have everything.
But if you
under
take a
one roof.
step back before, based on what you were saying, right? Do you think that the people in Trinidad understand, especially for the youth, their kids, just how important some participation in sport, whether it's football, karate, MMA, whatever?
I think they
is,
do.
well, hear me out. The next part of it is based on what Kerry was saying, that you need more facilities and stuff like that. Then the second part of that would be obviously, if sport has so many benefits, you teach a child to have confidence, raise self-esteem, right? Teach them not coordination, cooperation skills, right?
Team building.
Right,
But of course, community, only important community.
enhance their mood, right?
Listen.
No, but based on that, if these are all the benefits to be derived from sport
Plus
in general,
babysitting.
right?
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Plus babysitting service. People want somewhere for their children to go. They
but
want somewhere to go at the end of the day.
I totally understand where Brian is coming from and what he's trying to get at. Because let's say, for instance, some communities have a culture. So let's just say, for instance, let's take Gulfview for instance, or a certain part of Palmis, right? No, the majority of those individuals, their families are probably very well off. So their kids attend the higher quality of schools. Those schools, I can tell you,
Extracurricular.
but not the way it should Because I tell you I have students that train with me, and when I ask them, what do they really, how do they project sport in the school? Most of the teachers in those schools will tell you sport is a waste of time. You will not get anywhere doing certain sports. There is no money to be made in sport, and that now goes back to the parents, because I have seen it, because one parent did ask me before. She said, what my child really going to get out of MMA? I said, does he have a passion for it? And in front of him I asked, I said, what do you like about this sport? He said, I believe I could be a champion one day. And I looked at the mom and I said, would you take this opportunity away? She said,
There's
but
fire in the child.
the fire, the passion. Now I will tell you something. There was one day I woke up one morning and I had a dream, right? And I did a seminar one day. I was invited by Lockjack, and strange enough, it was 2 days prior to that, and it resounded with me. It was there. A voice, it was like a voice telling me, listen, the reason why you are successful, Kerry, is because you are doing what you are passionate about. You're doing what you love to do. And it went deeper into, when you are born, people say we're all born with a purpose. And I thoroughly believe with all my heart, we all know, or we feel, we know it in our beings. You see, up until the age of 7, 8, 9, when something grasps you and you say, Mommy, Daddy, this is what I want to be. Daddy, I want to be a fire officer. Mommy, I want to be a footballer. I want to be a dancer. Parents, because of culture, the way we were brought up, would tell our children, no, that has no money in it. No, I don't want you to do that. I want you to study doctor.
Well,
I
all
want
right.
you to study to be a lawyer.
So
and we steer them away.
Yeah, but you're bringing that into the conversation, and I want to ask this, right? Because people will ask, you say that, and people will ask, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Which comes first, an informed electorate or leadership? Because we in Trinidad seem to have a lack of both. We don't have an informed electorate. We have what people call low information voters, and they don't know that they don't know. So you can't blame them for not knowing. Then we have professional politicians who get into the field, who get into the job, who get in the post, who appoint people to the post, who have no idea that they don't know that they don't know. So where do we go?
Where do we go?
We have a minister of sport that doesn't understand sport. She was handed the portfolio.
As a matter of fact, she said
She
it.
said
she admitted it from day one.
Now look at this. Look at this. I have a friend, Atto Bolan. Atto Bolan has a stadium named after him that is in complete disrepair. While Atto is training Jamaicans to take the world by storm. Brianna Williams, I mean, the girl.
Yeah, she's fire. She's fire. Yeah.
And the Trinidadian athletes have as much fire. And Atto telling me that the one thing Jamaica have going for it is that Trinidadians not taking their sport seriously. Because Trinidadians could be giving Jamaica and all the other countries real pressure track and field. What we get for by the way, and we getting gold medals. We get a Keyshawn Walker that nobody saw coming. We fortunate when some of these kids get exposed. No, but we fortunate when some of these kids get exposed internationally, because here there are no support systems. Here there is no plan. Here the Ministry of Sport treats sport like and also ran instead of community building, human development.
But based on what you just said, Philip, why don't you answer your own question in the sense that how informed do you think the electorate is as regards to the benefit
with
of
regards
sport?
to sport?
Yeah.
If you looked at Trinidad and Tobago's voter, and over the last 30 years, and we've changed a generation or two, they've been told that politics is war. And politics doesn't have to be war. Politics should be about finding the best for everybody and going forward. In a perfect world, as you said, that don't exist. Our electorate now that's come of age, they're jaded, they don't believe in politicians, and the politicians themselves who get into politics, listen to most of them. None of them have a view, a vision for the country or the people. You have, and I don't want to go down too far into the political realm with this conversation,
It's important for
but
where
they
we
get
are.
on platforms and talk utter foolishness instead of when the Prime Minister was in Belmont. Belmont is what we would refer to as a depressed community. There are a lot of young people in Belmont that have no hope and no opportunity. They can't go on and further their education because they've missed steps, and there's nobody to right size them. There are a lot of illiteracy. So we need to take and do the best that we have in trade, culture, art, sport. But we have no expression in those things nationally.
So all them same politicians are voted in to represent the people in their communities, constituencies. They don't do that, Philip. What they do is they look after themselves. You look across the board, both parties that we play with today are, it's a revolving
You
door,
could
one after
imagine
the
a
other.
government in England that don't respect cricket or football
I want
or
to-
rugby.
I want to, listen, something that I've looked into over the last 18 months, which is absolutely brilliant. Iceland are under snow for 7-8 months of the year. Incredible. They are now competing in international football right across Europe.
500,000 people.
Great, 500,000 people.
500,000.
Great
Half the
football
population
side.
of Trinidad.
Why? Because they set down a plan over 5 years. They put synthetic surfaces all around the island. They put top-class coaches. You can't be anything less than a B licensed coach in every one of these facilities. So the kids are getting great mentorship, great people behind the scenes working them, and they're now knocking tops. They beat England, my God, in the European Championships last time out. And I'm thinking, how the hell did that happen?
That is a
Planning.
And let me tell you the level of planning. That is a country where at least half the parliament are women, and they make that a law.
Yeah.
And they've broken the glass ceiling where wage disparity is concerned. Women now have to earn as much as men and given opportunities. So they're actually breaking down all the taboos and all the
Yes.
obstacles to progress. And what you get out of that, you get people developing. Once you give people hope and opportunity, Trinidad and Tobago is at one time paradise and a hellhole. We are the most blessed nation in the world and the most cursed nation on the planet. We have a complete lack of leadership at any level. When I sat down this morning to make a list to call people to talk about sports, that list got so long. I know so many of you all good people, but I wanted people who have a hand on coaching, because you've seen sport from both sides. But now you see the frustration of yourself trying to develop a sport, and you see the frustration, Tony, in the communities. I mean, again, we have to always bring it back to this. Community development without sport, leaving the children with
In a
nothing-
mess.
In a mess.
In a mess, because this is why we're having children going into gangs and finding, because idle hands, they're looking for something to do. And especially in the environment now where we have a mostly single parent environment, where you have this one parent, whether it be father or mother, holding down 2 or 3 jobs just to survive and take care of the home for that matter. You don't have auntie, uncle, mommy, grandma around.
Extended family, no more extended
Exactly.
family.
So you're talking about children coming from school that have no guidance. No
Nobody
one
home.
Exactly. And they are now doing whatever the heck they want to do, finding themselves in places that they should not be. Now, having a robust sporting sector, or at least the opportunity for children to be inserted in these areas, I mean, again, it would keep them occupied. And like we say, especially where education is concerned, as a child growing up, to be able to identify naturally aspiration that a child is born with, as far as whether they're actually academic, whether they're artistic, whether they're a sportsman, or like working with their hands.
But sports aids in learning too.
Yes, of course.
Sport
I-
aid in left brain, right brain.
I agree 100% because I wanted to add on what Terry was saying. And remember, we had this conversation before where I always maintain that sport has a direct correlation with education.
Yes.
Direct.
It belongs
and
there.
and
Hand in
I
hand.
have always said, I had the opportunity to meet with one of the Jamaican spring coaches about 4 years ago in Miami, and I can tell you, he said, you know why Jamaica is taking over not just in track and field, not just in football, but in other sporting disciplines right now. Now you see they have a gymnast. The first gymnast just qualified for the Olympics, I think it
The
is.
Jamaica
already.
had a bobsled.
Oh, I
Had
was
a
just
boxing,
about to
yeah,
say
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I
And
was just about
the
to say
You were
point is-
talking about ice. Jamaica had a bobsled.
now they have a gymnastics team that is doing well. But the point the man was making, he said, listen, Jamaica realized something. Look what the US have been doing. Look at what Europeans have been doing, and look at what the Asians have been
Spec
doing.
port to development.
Straight into the schools.
Yeah.
And not just, now look at it, they have, like you were saying, they have coaches. Right now, in high schools in the US, you'd have a football coach, you'd have a track and field coach, you'd have a swim coach. You don't have a PE teacher trying to teach everything. You have
But
someone that is
backtrack
Yeah.
that to what he
Correct.
was saying a couple of minutes ago, which I think is very relevant. In that, what is it like in England? If you said that, you know, they would tell some people, aspiring kids to want to be a big footballer, they say, forget sport, boy. They have no money in sport.
yeah.
In
Well,
England,
but not coming to what's the mindset in particular in the schools for, like, if whether it's a private school or for a club or would they say like well, forget sport, you
No,
have
that's
no
what
money
it
I
in
is.
think
sport.
they have to try and get each other to stop playing football to spend some time learning.
Incredible. Several years ago,
Now
England.
talking about the money aspect
Yeah,
of it, huh?
Several years ago, England put £800 million into grassroots community
Wow.
football. £800 million.
Halt, yeah.
So all of them washed out, terrible, recognising the weather that we have in the UK. Them little parks that we have that surround every community that were always a mess, they've now got synthetic surfaces down. They've got goals in one corner. They've got cricket nets the next corner. They're working on the kids in communities. So now them communities are playing against other communities in sport, whatever sport discipline that is, and they're bringing kids out of themselves.
Terry, when I see the children in the little hallways, in the little spaces between this wall and that wall, and then I drive past St. Mary's grounds, Curiosity grounds, Fatima grounds, St. Joseph grounds, and all the grounds closed. What's the point? Why doesn't the state take over the upkeep of all grounds and let the school have first dibs, first access, set a schedule, but when you're not using it, let the community come and play football? We are developing a West Park Savannah, and I'm watching this and I'm raising this issue now because politics obscures and deteriorates everything in this country.
Yeah.
We're building a West Park Savannah that's turning out to be a political football. And on the extreme right of it, where the largest collection of people live, the people who live in Powder Magazine,
Yeah.
they're almost walling it off from them.
Wow.
So I'm watching to see if what we're building is a Westmoreland Savannah as
Yes.
opposed to a West Park Savannah. Because I remember Rafiq Shah wrote a long time ago that if we continue gating our communities, a time will come when the people on the inside of this community do not recognize the people on the outside of the
Yeah.
community, and that gate is not going to be strong enough. And that's where we are.
So
We get
Philip,
into that.
that now, it's got to go right back to the top. It's got to go Prime Minister, governments, delivering the right things for the people underneath them. We are, you've said it already, there's very few leaders that we've seen. When we see governments turning over, it's one squabble after the next. There's nothing that's been set down in stone. This is what we're going to work on to achieve this.
For sport,
For
a
sport.
vision for sport.
For sport.
Forget everything else for now.
So-
You've seen governments come and go,
Correct.
and besides
20
building
years I've been here,
facilities,
20 years and I've not seen
besides
them change.
building facilities, I understand the cycling track falling apart, leaking water, and we spend how much $100
But
million?
the thing is, Philip, what you've got to look at here is we have loads of water, loads of heat, one or the other. And doesn't matter which one we have, them football facilities that we've got, them playing fields are not good enough.
Useless.
So if we put synthetic down everywhere with a covering over the top, you can play football.
Round the clock.
You can do any
Eliminate
sport
football.
round
Round the clock. In Brazil, they lay out football fields like how other countries lay out tennis courts. 20 football fields
Yes.
side by side, and everybody at the end of work. I remember reading the story of Ronaldinho, and the mother said, he in the shower, he have the ball. He in his bed, he have the ball. If your child demonstrates a passion or a love for a type of sport, you as a parent have a responsibility. I think it's almost child abuse to block the child from that.
Correct.
It must have-
I
Actually, what you
must
said,
be
I
acknowledged.
agree.
yeah.
I agree.
In Brazil, it's. I mean, I was taking my pride. I was in Brazil for a championships, and I just karate champion. I just happened to look out the window, and it's like about 7 in the evening, right? And they probably started early. These kids with bare feet, but the passion is
Sweat.
in them.
Sweat.
Kicking a tin pan. That's a football. But one of them will probably be a superstar because
but-
of that.
Yeah, but the
that
thing
that
is,
That's what
passion.
happened in Cameroon, where we get Samuel Eto'o from. I mean,
Correct.
Didier Drogba, his story, he say they used to play football in a piece of land between two highways that had no grass. He had no shoes. So you can't tackle him.
But you see, our Dwight Yorks that we've had and Shakas and the top players that we've had, certainly in football, they're not coming around anymore because of the lack of development on the ground.
Correct.
Where
And
are
that's
they?
Not just
Are
the
they coaching?
It's not just the coaching, it's the facilities. Listen, these kids that are there, they look at the TV and they see these fabulous Premier League football fields that look pristine every game. And they're wondering, they're looking at their backyard and thinking, why is our fields not as good as that? And it's because we can't maintain anything. It runs away, the dressing rooms, everything is deteriorating. You put
So
a
you
synthetic-
think this is a really
That is
big
not why.
demotivating
Terry,
factor?
Terry, that is not why.
If you put a
It's
synthetic
not that we
outfield-
can't maintain. Terry, we operate like this. Maintenance have no money to steal. $150 million builds the stadium, give it 5 years, let it collapse, spend 15 million more. That's what we do.
Right. So, Philip, my point here is this. You put a synthetic surface down and you get a guarantee, 15 to 25 year guarantee.
Which government
on the
wants
life.
that? Unless they get in.
It's what the kids want. It's what the
And it's
future
what
of
it
this
should be. I'm
country,
saying that's what
absolutely.
it should be. That's what it should
Yes.
be. How do you get the people to understand that it is the function of government to give them those things?
Well,
That
No,
sport is
yes.
as important as
That's-
education.
No, I would
We
go a
coaches
step,
will never get that.
I
That's
will
where
go a
it's
step
got to.
further. Now, I totally understand that aspect of it, having the proper facilities. But now let's ask this question: how do we get the individuals like Brian, myself, his son, and others that are real coaches within Trinidad and Tobago to invest, to actually know the invest in the development of youth, giving something of themselves?
Ke-
How do we know?
Gary Griffith
Get
Gary
individuals
Griffith-
to say, okay, this is not a waste of my time.
I want to tell you, Gary Griffith was supposed to be on this panel because a lot of people don't know. As brilliant as he is with national security and crime fighting, Gary's first love is sport. And Gary had told me when he was Minister of National Security, if he had his way, he'd be the Minister of Sport.
Right.
That's what he wanted to
Right.
be because the development of sport. But if you look at all the Ministers of Sport, the closest we got to an adequate Minister of Sport was Anna Roberts, and then he ran off the tracks. But the truth of the matter is, social development and management, culture, sport, we pay little regard or respect to those very important community developing aspects. We have no concept in our politics that the function of the government is the well-being of the people. In England, in Manchester, he's talking about Manchester. Football is so much their way of life.
Religion.
I watched a documentary about the electric company, and there is this guy in the electric company, and it's a Sunday, and they're playing, and his job is to wait for the coach's whistle, the last whistle, so he could put more power into the system because everybody's going to turn the kettle on to make a cup of tea. That's amazing that football could dictate the amount of
Yes.
power is in the grid.
Yeah, but based on what you're saying, there seems to be a bit of a contradiction in maybe how Trinidadians perceive things, because in all fairness to Trinis, when it's a football match, I think I find Trinidadians support their athletes in games. In other words, you know, a game is being played coming out for Trinidad, even though you figure, well, the chances may not be good, you're supporting. So the love for the game and for sport in general is there. If based on you're saying that it don't seem to be that enthusiasm coming out and being reflected by those in power, what you suggest?
Because of the lack of leadership, they've left a void. And the people, all of you and others in that industry, for want of a better word, have had to approach the alcohol companies. They're the only ones spending money, and the alcohol companies are using our young people to sell alcohol, and nobody's really interested in developing the sport, and it's not going to happen. I hear Trinidadians parrot political foolishness that what the people want is what will happen. Listen, the people want carnival, and we've destroyed carnival. The people wanted the thing that we spend the most. Eric Williams had said, if Trinidadians could spend the amount of effort, time, and money we spend on carnival or anything else, we could put a man on the moon. Eric Williams said that.
But if you're backtracking, I'm a little bit puzzled there. You say the destroyed carnival. What you're referring to?
There is no more people outside want to see carnival. It's no longer a spectator event. Carnival is insular. What we've turned carnival into moving all-inclusive fetes. There's no longer
To
something.
be honest, Brian, I mean, I could say this with football. We had a competitive international game against Honduras only last week at the stadium. We had less than 300 people in the stadium. And that's because this administration, because of their incompetence, they don't know the game, they don't know the business of football, so they don't know what to project. They haven't got a plan, so they're stumbling forward, they're losing money, it's a complete mess. So you've got all these kids that I agree with, I love their football. Whoever they play for, they're Jablets here, they're this team, that team. They also look at your Man United's, Chelsea's, or whoever. They love their football, but it's being killed here.
And based on what you're saying, you think it's going to have a domino effect on going right back down to the
Trinidad's number one MMA. Two of you all in
We're
MMA.
struggling like hell now. And if this same administration gets a next term, which comes up next month, it will kill the game.
Listen, Trinidad's top MMA fighter migrated because of crime.
He told you that?
He is a trained killer. I mean, somebody who is a mixed martial artist. And when he had put out that post on Facebook, remember, that he had to hide below a car. There had gunplay going on around the vehicle. He had stopped to get
Crazy.
ice or something to go to the beach. Trinidad is no longer a place where people feel safe to invest. If you have a talent, you might be better off going somewhere. I remember a bodybuilder the other day, we heard on the news that he gave up representing Trinidad and Tobago because he couldn't get support for the things that he needed to buy to live on. We take it for granted. We think that these people want a handout.
But that's the
A
problem.
sport is an expensive
That's what they're
thing.
dealing with across the board.
That is the problem.
Not
That is the
getting the
root.
funding that is necessary.
The funding is not there, and the reason why the funding is not there because we don't see the potential in what it could be eventually. We want the ready-made product. So let's say we have a guy that was born in the US, but he have Trinidad parentage, and he's doing well. All of a sudden, hey, let's call him back. He's a trainee. He let him represent us. He's already established. He was getting everything he needed in the US. Let's say a parent that has it, they realize the potential of their child. They put the child outside. He's been in the States or in Europe since the age of 12 or 13, developing the whatever sport or sporting discipline that child is passionate about. When that child reaches of age and is now a professional, hey, that's a trainee, let's bring him back. And then now you see endorsements. Then now you see they try to get behind him. No, it's
you've
after,
invested.
which is
Absolutely.
wrong.
And we're going to come back and we're going to
and
follow on
that
what
takes
Terry
But
away.
said.
the person that has happened to
We had
the athlete.
We gotta take a short break. When we come back, we're gonna get back into that. Where is the money in sport? Because sport generates hundreds of billions of dollars worldwide. Trinidad and Tobago has demonstrably capable athletes in every field of endeavor. Why are we not playing at the level we're supposed to play at? Where's the money? Where's the vision? When we come back.
Antel is Trinidad's most reliable and technically experienced ICT company, providers of quality structured cabling, Cat6 data fiber, and power cables. We also stock cabling infrastructure basket-type cable trays for server rooms and data centers. Antel also installs and maintains video security systems including cameras, alarms, and electronic entrance locks for businesses and residential properties. Call Antel 674-1406 or 783-9250.
Sale, sale, sale. Boddington and Associates Optical is offering free eye testing along with 50% off all frames and 30% off all lenses. Boddington and Associates Optical, located at number 17 Carney Savannah Road, Chaguanas, and 11 McBean Road, Couva. Info line 671-5342. Call and book your free eye testing today. Boddington and Associates Optical, helping you see the way.
from the break. And if I could have recorded some of what took place on this table while we were at the break, I hope I get that energy back up here because Brian asked a question to Terry. Kerry jumped in and responded, and we're talking about the same issue. Funding. Which countries are spending money on their athletes, and what are you seeing in return? What are you getting?
Well, my answer to Brian was, several years ago, England, Great Britain put £800 million into grassroots sport. That was going right into communities. And we are now seeing national sides for England, football, rugby, you name it. We've got top athletes, top everything, because we put the time and energy and coaching into all these kids, and they're coming through now. England's national side, that just come out of the World Cup, average age of 23. Trinidad and Tobago's national team that failed to get to the World Cup through qualification, their youngest player in any of the games was 27.
Oh.
Right? So that's where we're talking. We've got world champions, Mbappe, 19 world champion with France. So kids are coming through. It's not how old you are, it's how good you are, and you will see it in your sports. And these kids now, the confidence that they're breeding because of the facilities they've got, the coaches they've got.
But exactly, if there is a community feel for football, every child that learns to like football want to go out and kick ball. You could tell when it's cricket. Well, I mean, you could have been able to tell when it's cricket season, because when the game done, everybody outside the road playing a win ball game. You know, football done, we outside playing a small goal. Yeah. That's not happening anymore. We don't have sport in the heart of the community as we used to.
But you still haven't answered the question as regards to, if you use England, and you said as far as you're concerned, England in terms of sport investment and stuff like that, right? What, for a country looking at it, see, what do they see as the time frame that they're going to get back there? So investment, yeah. And what big benefit they see that it does to the
Well, I just think across the board, what you've got here, using football as an example.
Yes.
So you've now got England national teams at 15, 17s, under 21s are already world champions. They've already done great things. The bulk of them players that have come through them same 3 different levels of football are now playing for the national team, get to the semi-finals of the World Cup, and the average age of the team's 23. That's a great starting point for the sport.
But Terry, we are not going to be able. I mean, we keep expecting a road to Germany to happen. I mean, that was such a fluke. We cannot develop teams to compete against countries like Germany and Argentina, Brazil. Even the African,
I disagree.
No, but I'm saying even the African nations that are spending money and developing the young people. In the absence of that, you are not going to be able to compete.
Spending money and developing young people. We're not doing
that's
that
what I'm
here.
saying. We're not doing it.
We've got quality people around the table here who are great coaches. And how do you get these quality people into different communities so you're bringing the level up nationally? You can't do that without government's help and support to make sure that you've got your maybe 5 or 6 regional clinics that your top coaches look after, and there's a program for all of the coaches to stick to, not the kids, the coaches.
Absolutely.
So you're developing the youngsters on the ground.
And you must have metrics to measure to see that you're getting results. And the return on the investment that you asked, but I want to tell you what the investment really is. You could take 5 billion out of the 9 billion we spend on national security, and you spend that on sport. You tire those children out on the football field. You give them hope and opportunity, and you give them the chance. And they're not looking to go and interfere with other people, because now they have something, you remember.
No, you're talking about a big benefit.
But no, the passion that a child, what he's saying. I mean, we all are a little older in life, but I'm sure you remember as a young man, when you have a passion for something, nothing's stopping you. Nothing's stopping you. So we need to create hope and opportunity in sport, especially in the at-risk communities, in the hotspot communities too. He was talking about the children not coming home to no parents. What are they supposed to do? Turn on Synergy TV and learn how to passa and broke out?
They'll have absolutely no direction.
What are they supposed to do? Who is going? Because teachers, parents, coaches it's like a relay of development of these young minds and gives them a chance to maximize their potential. What's happening in our country is the opposite of that. The children have barely functional schools, parents who are absent, no coaching.
Yeah.
And,
So-
we still have the problem with the culture here where we think academic is above sport. Academics is above sport.
No, but you know, you use the word culture in the
that's-
correct way.
Yeah.
But everybody in Trinidad thinks culture is soccer.
That's culture.
So, and I just want to qualify that for them
Yeah.
because and what you're saying is a fact that if you are not looking at young people in Russia, when a baby is born, they measure their hamstring to see if this child might have you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
China, you need to know, because sports as an avenue for development is a fantastic crucible for community development and to generate plenty recognition to your country, to keep your children, your young people, because the only other thing that could control a mass of young minds like that is the army.
But what
Yeah,
you're
true.
talking about as regards to when they see, for them to want to be, the passion, right? In every sport, then you have to have, apart from good coaches too, you have to have stars in every sport that they can look up to. and say,
Absolutely.
I want to be like this
Absolutely.
person.
Absolutely.
So that has to be put in place too. I
Absolutely.
mean, you literally have to.
But
to
you have
look at
names
The
like
thing-
Arthur
the
Bowler
thing
and
is,
Shaka and
there
stuff
is, you know,
that are world
Brian,
brands now.
there are people for them to look up to here.
Yeah.
But then you know what they're hearing from the neighbor or from the granny or from the dad or even the mom?
Yeah.
No, I don't have no time with that. You have to go to school and become a lawyer. You have to go to school and become a doctor.
Because there
There's nobody in sport.
That's correct, game. There's no money in
because
sport.
They're looking for a shortcut to up payday.
Exactly.
But
So-
if parents, I mean, children who have, and somebody mentioned it earlier, children who come from, I think it was you, who come from more affluent families,
Yes.
they have support systems that the ordinary education system in
May not be
developed countries
privileged to.
provide.
Exactly.
They provide, and young Trinbagonians who migrate find it so easy to develop in sport. And that's who we end up claiming back as Trini. Win a gold medal in this and a Trini win a bronze in that. But when you check it,
They-
Trinidad had no part to play in
Not in their
that.
development.
Nothing.
Nothing to do with their development. And this is something you've been seeing across the board.
Yeah.
Across the board. Even with athletics, track and field, with football, with certain, because when you look at some of the footballers that they call back from the US, there was this young guy the other day, I think it was for the last World Cup qualifiers. He was playing for one of the North Carolina or South Carolina. It was a big team, a professional. I don't remember his name because I'm really not into football. But I remember reading it on the newspaper and they brought him back. But this boy really he didn't spend any kind of time here in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's go back now to one of my favorite footballers back in the World Cup when we qualified for Germany, who was Chris Buchel. From England.
Yeah.
I mean, by a technicality of
Yeah,
heritage. You understand? He is now a Trini. You know what I mean? No problem. He helped us get us there. He scored some fantastic goals. I was actually in his stands when he scored that goal against Mexico. I was all over the place. Ramon,
I
you
think
know?
a big point here, though, Kerry, is this. You've got, across the world, these kids that come back from North America, from Europe, wherever, they're
From
trained,
systems that
their
work.
standards are very high. They come back into Trinidad. Our pro league in Trinidad and Tobago, when we're nearing the end of October here, haven't kicked a ball all year.
Wow. That looks like
National
thinkable.
team haven't won a game in 14 games. We're going downhill. And you can't, we've got players now threatening not to come back for the next international, which is next month against Honduras, because they're fed up. They're fed up because they've had good standards, good coaches, they've had discipline, they've had a plan wherever
To come
they
here
are.
to run on a
And
field
then
and
they
break
come-
your ankle.
Listen, Phil, only a fortnight ago, these kids came back, these same players, and I was at CIC grounds with my little football factory academy, and they tried CIC grounds, got a blank, you can't train here, too much going on. They tried King George
I
V
remember
across
that.
the road, and then they ended, how can that not be organised for your national team?
That is
Wow.
insane.
Wow.
That's
That is
crazy.
insane. That is insane. And again, when you mention Iceland, which has half the population of Trinidad and Tobago and none of the tropical weather that we have, and that they could know, because there's a vision and it takes that. I mean, it's just straying away from sports, and I keep using the model of India that pulled itself from the global slum to having the largest middle class on planet Earth. There are more middle class people in India now than there are people in America, Europe, and Canada.
Yeah.
600 million. On what? On information technology, information systems. They have more patents in technology than any other country in the world. And they started off being the butt of jokes, that they were the call center. And if you had a call to Microsoft Word or something, somebody in India answered. Where they went from there? They created more engineers. They created engineering schools. They made sure that there were scholarships, and they pushed people in that direction. Now they're reaping all of the rewards. What is the vision for Trinidad and Tobago in anything? I mean, come back to sport.
Because we are not serious.
But we're
about
naturally
sport.
predisposed. I want to tell you something here. The Progressive Empowerment Party has this vision of councils that guide government, like an activist council. This here is the start of a conversation that I've been trying to have for a long time, where you have a sporting council of people who are stakeholders in multiples of disciplines that guide the hand of government, whose job it is to provide for the people.
Yes.
So that the young generations growing up could have something to do. We have a lot of people. I watch football teams that I follow, and I know that when a man is coming to the end of his career, it's almost a next step. He's going to coach. Where are all our talented footballers? Where are they? I was asking you that just now. Shaka Hislop is a world brand. Ato Bolan is a world brand. Where are our people? Why do we not have people like them at the helm?
Why? Because what are they getting
They're
in
not
compensation? They're not
respected,
getting. They're
exactly.
not. I like that. They're not being respected. They're not being
respected.
paid. The system in itself is non-existent.
Yeah.
For that to be a reality here presently. I mean, you said something just now as well, Kerry, where parents say to their children, there's no money in sports, and they are absolutely correct. We have not created an environment where our sporting sector of the country can be something of substance, where
Correct.
finances are concerned,
Correct.
where money has some level of
But
worth.
Tony, Philip raised the point earlier on. When you've got national security, for argument's sake, with such a big budget, why can't we tap into that? Because it's the same kids on the street
Very true.
that fall the wrong side
Yes,
of the road.
yes.
Why can't we
There's
tap
in
into
Diego
that?
Martin, there is a police club. I think it's Excelsior is the name or something like that. And they work in Diego Martin, they work with the children, and they've been there for a long time, and I've known that. And they have this clubhouse now, and all the trouble and at-risk youths, they come and they involve themselves with them. I mean, that's just like nothing at what you're talking about. But Brian, I mean, Kerry, but I'm sure Brian could remember, we still reaping the fruits of Bruce Lee. Every child growing up in Trinidad and Tobago wanted to be a Bruce Lee
Bruce
and
Lee,
wanted
yeah.
to be a martial artist, a black belt
Well,
was a thing to
they
have.
used to say that. They used to say that different. They used to say that every second when those Bruce Lee movies came out, every second house in Trinidad had a nunchaku, and somebody's broomstick was missing.
No, but you know
Yeah,
that
yeah,
a
yeah.
black belt in Trinidad and Tobago was a thing to have.
Yeah,
When you
yeah.
get your black belt,
Yeah.
you're proud.
Yeah.
Why don't we have any real competitions that develop that sport and give them champions? You were talking about people need people to look up to. Why are we not generating homegrown champions here? Why we don't have a football league in Trinidad and Tobago using those stadiums? Why are we not developing inter-community football matches and allowing all of these corporate citizens to invest in sport and give them a tax break?
Can I be a little bit naughty? Let me be a little bit naughty to answer what he's saying, because there is no kickback. The people who supposed to invest and put the money in it, they are not seeing a kickback in 2 years, 3 years. Because sport development, to invest and develop sport, you have to invest expecting that reward. I would look for that reward in 8 years' time. So let's just say someone asked me, strange enough, I put a post on Facebook. It was actually I commented on a post. Someone was discussing the same losses that we experienced for the national football team. I said, listen, if I were the national coach of Trinidad and Tobago football team, I would stop looking. I would not look towards the next World Cup or the one even after. I would forget 8 years. We're not trying to get to the World Cup for 8 years. Let's concentrate on developing a new core, a elite team. Teenagers come up, have them all training. They're doing all the little regional games, whatnot. We develop that talent, but we are not looking to try and qualify for the World Cup. What we are trying to do is build back a proper base, a proper
And behind that team, another team breathing down their neck.
correct,
And another team breathing down their neck.
Something like
Because
what
no-
Barcelona does with the
Exactly.
youth team. And then when they're big enough now, they get into the senior team, the A team, and they start, that was
That's where
my
Messi
response.
came from.
You know what I mean?
That's where Messi
In
came
other words,
from.
you're
Joe,
looking
I
for a
remember-
good structured support system.
Correct.
But that's
correct.
progresses.
But track and field as well. Track and
the
field
investment
as well.
in sport
People,
is not
when
right
you,
round
when
the
you,
corner. It
we
takes
talking about Brianna, who
years.
just turned 17. Atto was training her since she was 10. It's not now. You don't. We want to, as you say, we want to plant a tree today and pick fruits
Correct.
tomorrow.
It will not.
But Philip, what you've got here, again, coming back to football, my sport, we've got all the people at the top of football are all part of a technical side. None of them are businessmen. None of them have got a plan going forward. None of them know how to generate monies to support that sport that they love.
But is there a football plan?
There's no football plan. That's why we're where we are at this point today. We are competing against Guyana and Grenada.
That have plans.
Losing.
And they've got development progress, and they're beating us. They're beating us. And what we keep on talking about, a home of football, so what? It's in the middle of nowhere. Them kids from Caranage that can't afford to travel, they're not going down there to play and train. We've got to have regional, we've got to have places around there so top coaches can look after and then bring the elite players together.
They took the Diego
Now
Martin
and
field
again.
by Bagatelle and built a stadium on it. The children didn't need a stadium there. They needed more facilities, they needed more fields, they needed more opportunity. Because at that point when Diego Martin West meets Diego Martin Northeast and Diego Martin Central in one spot, you could have opened that space.
So that is absolutely a very important point in terms of
Facilities.
the facility, because as he said, you have somebody in Caranage. When you look in, I don't have that transport money to even reach down there.
A sweat-
And then after that, I might be coming up
But
at
you-
11 in the night.
Yeah.
Not even a bus.
But a
for
sweat
another
is
people.
in your community, a sweat
No.
is in your
But
community.
it's-
You will do
you're
it every
seeing
day and
You're
every
seeing
night.
it even with the new housing areas, developments that are being established. There are no sporting facilities in the immediate environment district for people to access.
Listen, man, we build ghetto communities. We just build tracts of housing. We don't even take public transportation into account. We don't take the most basic of amenities that people need to make a life. So when you're talking about sport, that must be so low on their developmental radar.
Boy, if I give you a joke,
True.
some years ago people were complaining there was a little development in Corinth, in San Fernando. And they listen, it's very close to Pleasantville. People like, listen, we need something for the youth. You know what they build? A playground, swings, slides, merry-go-round.
But your minister of
That's a
sport,
sweet-
but your minister of
I
sport,
couldn't believe it.
your
When I-
minister of sport said she know how to run, hop, and jump.
when I
That's
saw
a qualification.
when I saw the climb down the thing and the blockade and everything, I tell myself, boy, something coming at basketball court, something coming.
You get excited.
I get excited. Merry-go-round, swings, slide.
You know, town and country development, they have a part to play too. Because in first world countries, when you go to create a community, when you go to develop 30, 40 townhouses, you need to have in your plans water retention, drainage, but also recreational and extracurricular, because you're building a community. You're not just building houses.
Yeah.
Even if it is a green space, even if it is a simple green space, people will find ways to play football, play cricket, play whatever they need to play on that. But you have to create space.
So back in 2015, I organised with a big company here in Trinidad, Mapao Gaming Casino, to put down on Morva recreational grounds, complete synthetic across the whole field, incorporating the cricket field in the middle, football field, and a 3-lane track that went all the way around the perimeter.
Wow.
And it was stopped by the Minister of Sport,
Wow.
Brent Sancho at the time.
Why?
Kickbacks,
Why?
no kickbacks, man. This is what I'm
'Cause
trying
it
to
wasn't
tell
in.
you. That's what I'm trying to tell you, man. This is what that's why I say I was gonna be a little bit naughty. I'm trying to stay out of the political aspect of it, but I know exactly what
I
I'm
don't
saying.
want any.
Philip, we went to the Ministry of Sport and said, look, we are prepared, we've got the funding behind us. I went and spoke to the regional corporation, San Juan Regional
Daventry.
Corporation, and we are covering the cost of all of this, and it's still not our ground, we're not taking it off here, it's still yours, it's still a community ground, but it's now going to be a first class community ground with all of your amenities around it. can we have your support? Absolutely. Ministry of Sport, absolutely. This was the PS. And when it got to the minister stopped it. Now, where's your process on
And
the
Trinidad and
inside?
Tobago, you're hearing it from professionals, and I want to say CrossFit. That's what I was trying to remember earlier. CrossFit is a massive sport now in the world and growing. We have gyms. We have a gym culture because of a lack of avenues for people to play other sports. So we go into a gym, and even in that gym culture, they're moving more and more away from weights and more into rope climbing and tire flipping and that
Functional
kind of-
training.
Functional training.
Correct.
Why isn't the state subsidizing the development of more fitness facilities from the health budget? Because the health budget is paying for the consequences of our lack of fitness.
That's a very good point.
That's logic. What you're saying there, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, it
I
makes
mean,
sense.
you would figure that
We've got a health budget.
if the health of your body, you know,
Well, they
the-
spend they spend 5 billion a year on what I don't know.
I'm still trying to figure that out.
No, but sorry, man, continue.
No, you're quite correct. The point is that if the fitter you are, then you would figure that there's no that amount to be spent on
Healthcare.
putting healthcare and stuff like that into place. But you know what the trick there is? That
Listen.
try convincing people.
Listen now, Trinidad has
You might know that.
Trinidad has the highest rate of heart disease in black males in the Western world. Trinidad's diabetes numbers are ridiculous. Trinidad's hypertension numbers are ridiculous. We now have a spike in cancers, especially there's a type of cancer, and it just slipped my mind. That when you
Obesity. Second in the
Obesity.
world per capita.
look at that, look at that.
Obesity in this country.
But and when you look at that, all of those are symptoms of a nation that's not engaging itself the way it should. We are winning the wrong things.
As you said, obesity. And if you play on that, do you have any idea when you say by most health and fitness institutions, right? They know what they considered in terms of percentage of body fat, what is considered obese. You know what?
Go on.
And that you might, if all right. Let me before I answer. Let me just picture this. All of you all know Marilyn Monroe, right? Previous
Yes.
screen guard. Right. Now, very curvaceous. But if I had to make a professional guess as regards to if you were measuring her body fat percentage, I would put Marilyn at about 27 to 28%. Now, here is where you need to.
Right. So, Brian-
with 30%. No, I said Marilyn Monroe was
Yeah,
curvy.
yeah,
30% and over is considered obese
No, because
by
we can-
most
When I came
health
to
and
Trinidad
fitness
and Tobago,
institutions.
I came
So
here,
you know what that means in terms of that high standard.
Yeah.
Brian, I came
Plenty
here
people obese.
January 2000,
Oh,
and the women were absolutely knockout. The men were all cut, and it was the most complete, fabulous race of people here in Trinidad.
and you said I'm going to be
But it's
staying here.
changed.
What year was
It's
that?
changed. That was 2000.
19 years ago.
Why do you think I didn't go home?
Yes, I didn't say that. So you have seen from that perspective.
I've seen the
You've seen a big
change.
change.
From a business perspective, what he just said is a fact, you know. The reason a lot of companies don't like sending their people, their professionals, expat to Trinidad is because they don't like to leave.
Go back.
They don't like to leave.
So when that picture you
But no.
described, you said this is a place for you.
Fabulous.
Anyway, before we go down that road too far, we're going to bring this to a wrap, and I'm going to ask everybody, I guess I'm going to start with you, Kerry, Grant, MMA, give us your closing comments,
And
as much as you want.
I really love the panel, guys. I look forward to having much more of these.
Part two at least.
Yeah, at least. And I mean, for those out there that are looking on, for me, it's about developing, and I'm very passionate about investing in the youth. It's more than just, I understand the importance of having the facilities, but we need more big brothers, big sisters out there that are willing to give of themselves to, again, help develop the youth and help strengthen their mind and bring out what passion alone cannot create a champion. And they would need that external driving force and that expertise and inspiration. And let us be that again. And that is my closing remark.
And I would ask governments, whoever's in there, to stand their ground. Do more, do better. The kids are the future of this country. If you don't do that, we're going down the chute. Please do more.
For me, it would be the screening aspect. I still think that the people in charge of the various sporting disciplines, they of themselves must set a standard that more people develop that passion that you referred to. And a lot of young kids say, I want to be like Mike. You know, that type of thing.
Absolutely. Tony.
Well, fantastic panel. I'm looking forward very much to have you guys on the show again. Most definitely, I think Trinidad and Tobago is important for you to hear this information being dispensed to you. My take on it would be a greater development within the sporting sector, much more emphasis where that is concerned, and as well as coupling it with the social arm of things as well as the educational arm of things. Very important factor there.
If anything, this panel demonstrated today is the wealth of knowledge that exists in this country still. If God wants to be a Trinity and bless this country, we will get a government that understands that there are people who understand their field, tap into that. Give them the tools responsible, the funding responsible, necessary, and let them do the job. At the end of the day, we need, Kerry said, and it's a fact, you need to go now to the 7-year-olds and the 8-year-olds and start creating a culture of fitness and sport in Trinidad again, because it's dying. It's dying. And when this generation of passionate thinking people are no more, what will we have to show for all this potential? Trinidad and Tobago is a country blessed with a wealth of capable, creative, talented, naturally able people. What are we doing with it? As usual, taking it for granted. It's conversations like this that we need to be having in this country. Less of the bacchanal, more of the policy programs, ideas, plans that will actually take us somewhere and solve the problems that we have. We will have a part 2 to this. There are a lot more people that wanted to be on today. We got the sports show on short notice, so we will be doing a part 2, a part 3, because sport as an avenue to the development of young people and the communities is a massive transformational tool, and we, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, have to understand and embrace this if we want to play as a first world nation. Going forward from here, what we do next is important. This has been Plain Talk. Thank you. All of these pens are yours.